Yeah, I'm Catherine. I'm with Polis Media, and we're just going to do a quick interview and all that. So, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
I am a fourth year right now. I'm a history student. I have a pretty unique university experience. So I'm part of the St. Andrews William and Mary program. So right now I'm actually back here at William and Mary. It's pretty rainy right now. It's a crisp 8:02 a.m. in the morning for me. But that has kind of put me in a position to be very aware of some of the things that a lot of students have gone through in the past year, I feel like. Just because thinking about the role and kind of what I have to offer, my perspective is a lot different than somebody who's gone through the past 4 years at St. Andrews, but in a way that I feel like really prepares me for right now. So if you think about it, all 4 years of my university career, I have been isolated from one university at one time or another. Even in first year when I might not have known what I was missing by being isolated because I
Yeah.
hadn't been there yet. But if anything, every year after. So I've felt it throughout the whole thing. And I say this a little bit in my manifesto, but I have had what feels like three first year
Yeah.
experiences. So, first year coming to William and Mary, second year coming to St. Andrews, and then this year coming back here when the last time I was here was 3 years ago.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, it's quite unique.
thinking about the difference between, being a fourth year and being a first year, you change. So
Yeah.
I feel like a different person coming back to the school. So not only do I feel like I have a good understanding of the kind of isolation that I feel like people have felt right now, having your heart in two places at once and not being able to be there is really hard. Um, but also I feel like I know what people are going through with trying to make things work and not knowing quite how they're supposed to work. And by that, I just mean with the whole, first year experience type thing. Like, I know what that feels like to come back and have it feel like you don't know anybody. Like,
Yeah,
this is supposed
honestly.
to be your home, but it feels weird to you. And like,
Yeah.
campus is still beautiful, but you just don't know anybody, or
Yeah.
just things like that. I feel like that's a big part of who I am. And so I feel like it just gives me a unique perspective, but that's basically a little bit about me to give a
Yeah,
good
no,
intro.
that was quite comprehensive. I think definitely that kind of fills in the other question I was going to ask about, and like, why are you running for the position and everything? But I take it really is coming from a place of wanting to put on these events to bring people together, which brings me to my other question about you. I mentioned in your manifesto about an events buddy scheme, and I wanted to ask a bit more about what you mean by that and everything.
Yeah. So there is something similar that's put into place by peer support
Mm-hmm.
right now, and peer support services, which is what I tried to kind of imply at the end of that when I said also
Yeah.
making students aware of the other things that are available. But I think that having kind of like a scheme available to students for union events, the way that I described it to a lot of my campaign team, because they also had the same question, was just like, what's unique about it? What do you mean exactly?
Yeah.
Is the fact that some people will feel a little bit more self-conscious asking for help from somebody who they know is supposed to be there to give help.
Mm.
Um, and it's not something that I think people should feel nervous about, but I don't have control over that. So, in situations where students might want another student who also feels anxious and lonely
Yeah.
to go to it with, because I really, really do applaud the peer support volunteers and the people who put that effort in. And I'm sure they are very, very personable people. But a lot of people can be very anxious about those things too. So, not only continuing what they're continuing, they're doing a great job of it too. But find a way to match students with each other as another means not only of like finding comfort in your social situations, but it'll hopefully fix some of the isolation that's going on and people can meet other people right now
Yeah.
and kind of bond over that awkwardness. I'm one of those people where I point out the awkwardness in the room to make myself and the other person comfortable about it. And so I feel like that's probably the place that this idea came from, is to be like, we're both lonely.
Let's
Come
be
with me.
friends. Yeah.
Like, and they're like, okay. So that's basically where that's coming from. But yeah, it would be kind of like an anonymized system to get into a little bit more of the logistics, but to keep it brief. An anonymized system in the sense of you don't know who you're meeting before you meet them.
Yeah. I think
So
that's
maybe you're given their email, their student email or something. I mean, you could probably track them if you wanted to, but so that it's, you know, you're not like, I don't want to be paired up with them, but you could submit like a form and be like, I'm trying to go to this and I want a buddy for it. So adapting what they have and fitting it to the scheme of union events, I feel like will be very useful. So that could be Freshers Week. That could be, you know, throughout the year workshops, career workshops, events, big pub quizzes, like anything like that. I feel like we have a really good system in place. We can transfer it and make it a little bit more applicable, and then also keep that in place for the people who are comfortable with it.
Yeah, I really like the idea of streamlining that. I think that could be quite useful in the future. And that brings me into another question I have is, so we have the last year and the work they've done, and I wanted to know what's something you think they've done quite well, but what's also something you think that could have been done better or that you would like to change?
Okay, so you skipped at the start, and I heard that they did last year, and I was like, who?
So basically,
I just asked.
sorry, no problem. I asked basically, so we see the director of events and services from last year. So what's something you think they've done well? And then what's something you think they've done not as well or that you maybe like to change or would have done differently? So a two-parter here.
Okay. Well, Tom's manifesto is very comprehensive. I can appreciate that. I'm somebody who can be okay with that. So, you know, it's funny at the same time and everything. Like it's interesting to read. I feel like Tom is a very approachable person for the most part. And so I understand that COVID kind of came out of nowhere. And you can't blame anybody for that. So I guess I'll start with where it could have been improved.
Okay.
It came out of nowhere. Nobody could have prepared for that. At the same time, I do think that the level of ambition that was started off with was a little bit high. So yes, it gives you the opportunity to get a lot of things done, but I don't think that the manifesto is an exhaustive thing either. So in my mind, my manifesto might look very, very small compared to, you know, other candidates, but it's by no means where I plan to stop.
Yeah.
And so I think that not only was the manifesto maybe a little bit ambitious, but it also meant that I feel like there was a little bit less accountability for what got completed. So little things are getting done along the way at the same time, what's really getting done. So again, I don't blame him for COVID. He can't have anticipated that. Nobody could have. And the election falls at a very unfortunate timing for when that happened. I remember when I flew out, I literally flew out March 23rd. Like,
wow.
I flew out on the day, like, it's still with me.
Yeah.
So I don't put that on him. At the same time, it's hard to not look back and say what was done in the meantime. And that's where I think it fell short. You know, that's where accountability needs to come into play, and there needs to be some more focus, or there needs to be more focus on urgent things that are applicable to right now. Do all the little stuff along the way, because that stuff is great. But also, we need to fill a need of a current situation, especially when there's a situation like COVID going on.
Yeah.
So that's where my issue stands. One thing that I do think he did really well is I actually really like his focus on spaces.
Yeah.
So I think that he had some really cool initiatives or ideas in place, and some that he got some pretty good leeway on, like the field, for example. So behind the union and things like that, or the can-do tent. I know that has been received differently by different students. Some really liked it, some didn't. That could have been improved maybe with more consultation of like student feedback. But for the most part, he provided a space. And so I'll give him that. Because I do think that was a good idea, and I do think it's something that I would want to continue to, obviously, is expansion of spaces and what can we use. So
yeah, I feel like there's all these small niche spaces in St. Andrews you look at and you're like, is anyone even using that? We could definitely. So
right.
Okay, that's quite comprehensive. And then I also wanted to ask, just for fun, kind of what would be a dream event you would love to put on in the union if you had just limitless time or something you've always wanted to have go on?
Oh my gosh. That's so hard because what makes that difficult is because we've had so many amazing events to where I'm trying to think of every little thing. I'm like, oh, like a mechanical bull. We've had that. So it's like we can do anything, but it's like what hasn't been done. I don't know if this counts necessarily. I think it would be really cool to have like a neon blacklight party.
That would be quite cool.
So like obviously lighting is pretty low in there anyways, and the lighting could make things into a blacklight-ish lighting, but like setting it up to really be like that. So people come with like neon paint on their faces and things like that, or like glow sticks everywhere. Like I just feel like that would be a cool idea. I feel like you always see videos of people doing like dances covered in like neon paint or like glow sticks, and like they turn up the lights and you're just like, that's really cool.
Like I want to be
so
there.
That's probably what I would do, yeah.
Well, that's cool. Honestly, that would be quite fun, especially just any party right now. I'm like, I'm there.
Yeah, everything sounds great. Everybody's like, do you want to meet and like talk about our pain? And people are just like, that sounds amazing. Like the social experience is great. Like.
And then I wanted to ask, in the first place, you talk a lot about being a William and Mary student also at St. Andrews. So what made you want to come to St. Andrews in the first place?
Oh, okay. So this actually related to basically my ambitions, or the breadth of my ambitions, I should say. So when looking into the program, basically what I was looking at obviously is what can I get from this if I do this? Because I'll be putting myself into a very unique situation that not a lot of people could prep me for. It's like people do study abroad. It is very different.
Yeah.
So when I came into the program, it was the same year that the first class of the program graduated. So it was only 4 years old when I came in. So even then, the people were limited. So the first round had just made it to the very end. So nobody could even tell me what the whole thing was like except for one group of people. Other people could tell me how it was so far 3 years in, but like, so it was a big decision. My personal reasoning behind it was, as a history student, I knew that I didn't want to do, this, that, the other, this, like, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really wanted to broaden my prospects, and I knew how great of a school St. Andrews was. It had a reputation for being very, very, very like pleasant. Like it had a high student satisfaction rate. Student experience was very well known. It was very old school. I love that. The older, the better for me. I'm a very, very old history nerd. And so in America, we don't have a lot of that.
Yeah.
And all those things put together, plus the fact that the program could offer me uniqueness. So yes, I'm a history student and I don't want to do this, but let me tell you what I have done.
Yeah.
So it's like putting myself through that gave me a lot that I can basically support myself with. And after being at St. Andrews, it was 100% the right decision. I remember being so nervous about coming there, to where my parents were basically offering me an out if I wanted to not go. And they said, you need to make up your mind now, though. This was like summer after first year. And so I was like, you're right, that's fair. And I remember I was terrified. And the second that I got to St. Andrews and we went to our like Airbnb, I was off.
Yeah.
And my mom told me at like the end of the week when they were going to leave, she was like, don't worry about it. Because I was like, I'm sorry, I haven't spent a lot of time with you guys. Like, I didn't expect that. And she basically was like, don't apologize. And she said, we could tell from the second you got here that you were happy. So like, that's changed me. So like, not to sound really cheesy, but it's a constant love story that St. Andy's and I have, and it's a beautiful one. Like, I'm straight up drinking out of my St. Andrews mug right now. Like, it's everything about the program has benefited me, but it appealed to me for so many reasons, because both schools are really great, but also the program is very, very unique.
Yeah. Well, I think that's our time, but you clearly have a lot of love for our town, and I do hope the rest of your campaign goes off quite well. So thanks for sitting down to chat with me, and we should have this recording and transcript up hopefully quite soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Have a good afternoon.
You too.